Welcome to LSAT Demon Daily. My name is Josh Mansfield, and I'm the producer of the podcast. And joining me today for our success story is Jonathan Goulding. Jonathan, welcome to the show. Super glad to have you.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Well, as you know, the reason you're here, and as our listeners know, is because you crushed the LSAT. So I'd love to hear, what LSAT administration did you take? What score did you end up getting?
Okay, so I did two back-to-back. My, success score would be the September LSAT test, and that came back as a 170.
Okay, congratulations. That's awesome. So let's start at the beginning then. What was your cold diagnostic? I know it's a number that people love to hear as well. It's kind of the journey from where you started to where you finished. So what did you start, and when did you take your cold diagnostic?
So my cold diagnostic was the end of June this year.
Oh, okay.
And it was a 161.
Okay. All right. So you had quite the high diagnostic. Congratulations. I think a lot of people. Go ahead.
I will say that was both good and bad.
Okay.
Because here's what that meant. It meant that instinctively, like without study, I had a certain degree of understanding.
Sure.
But what I did not have was any of the foundation fundamentals. And so invariably, learning the fundamentals would lower my score, not because of the whole slow down, take your time thing, but because I am now having to justify my answers kind of thing so I could have a proper understanding of it.
Sure.
Because if you have that high cold diagnostic without any foundation in the fundamentals of how the logical reasoning goes, you are at risk of, you're essentially fighting against yourself to learn something that others will grind their way into and earn. Like, other people, by the time they get up to a 160, will have spent a lot of time on the fundamentals to the point where when they reach 160s, they know why they got something wrong. They know that what they got was right and could explain why. I could not do that, and that had a massive negative impact on my ability to study.
Okay.
So it's I guess giving a very different perspective.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. The blessing and the curse side of it. So you take your cold diagnostic in June. Are you a recent graduate, working professional? What's a little bit of your background?
I got my bachelor's degree in software engineering, finished that up in 2014. And from 2014 to now, I've had a software job, burnt out on that and left the industry, went back into the industry in 2022. And from 2022 to now, I got laid off from two software jobs kind of in a row, with some time in between.
Sure.
But that, combined with other things, going back for a master's that I'm working on now in computer science, which was me doubling down, only to realize partially, like down the road, this past June, that was a bad idea. And the software industry really was not for me and was not a place I could excel. And that high cold diagnostic of 161 was a big sign of law is the right route as a full career pivot.
Okay. So you start studying in June, then you have this realization, software isn't for me. You mentioned that the cold diagnostic is being the confirmation, but you don't take the LSAT to say, oh, well, this is, like a coin flip. Like, if I get above a certain score, then law must be for me. So you must have had some sort of an inclination that law was the path you wanted to go to before you took the LSAT. What was it that drew you towards law?
Back in high school, senior year, I wrote down a list of 10 things that I believed I would like to do as a career and that I wanted to do. Being a lawyer was on that list. At that time, I had an aunt who was very near and dear to me, and she despised lawyers to the point where she told me straight to my face that if I became a lawyer, she would disown me. And so I immediately crossed that off the list.
Okay.
Now, I have since matured and realized she can't dictate my life, and I need to be really think things through on my own. And so, again, after the second time I got was laid off earlier this year, and was kind of figuring out what do I do now,
Hmm.
combined with realizing with my computer science graduate studies that this I don't have a passion for this. I was thinking back on that list from high school, and law was kind of coming back to me. And then two separate conversations, one with my girlfriend and then one with my mother. Um, and they don't talk to each other, but they each separately, within the span of about a week, told me, "You keep on talking about things you would like to do, like law. Why don't you just do it and give it a shot?" So, yeah.
So not quite coin toss with the LSAT, but it was a little bit more spur of the moment, or kind of that inspiration to give it a try.
If my cold diagnostic LSAT score was like a 1 in the 120s, I probably would have said this is not a good idea. It's less that I was looking for a score that said yes, you made the right choice. It's the fact that I got a score in a cold diagnostic of 161 that combined with two separate people in my life saying go for it, like it all meshed together to say give it a shot, see what you can do, kind of thing.
Yeah. So you start studying in June, and you starting, like we mentioned with that high score. Tell me about a little bit about your study process. What did your study schedule look like? Where was your focus, and what did you do in those 2 months before you started taking the test in August?
Well, I only had a month, and that was July, and
Okay.
I actually was in the middle of I I was juggling multiple things because I was needing to sell my house.
Hmm.
Um, I had made a commitment to work on a project for someone, and that was not going well. In fact, I ended up having to have a hard meeting early in July with them saying, "I apologize, I can't do this. Here's what I can give you." And a lot of things were kind of falling apart, and I was having to juggle amidst studying, focusing directly on the studying. I grabbed Demon Live because my the one person I went talked to as an advisor said if you have a cold diagnostic in the 160s, you need a tutor, and because self study is probably not a good idea to like see good growth. And she specifically recommended the Demon.
Okay. And this,
Because
where was this advisor?
at my alma mater, Miami University down in Oxford, Ohio.
Okay.
Now, I did not do the pre-log program there. In fact, I graduated from there in 2014, so I actually technically could not rely on them
Hmm.
as an like because their resources for alumni really stopped mattering after once you're past 3 years out of college. Because I tried reaching out to them for networking opportunities, and they said, "You graduated almost 10 years ago. We can't do anything for you,"
Okay.
which
Got
was
it.
tough to hear from someone from a school that I spent a lot of money at.
Sure. Sure.
Um, but she pointed me in the direction of the Demon, and that was fantastic because I was attending classes, finding out real quick which classes were good, which ones were bad, um, and was took a few diagnostic tests, did some time sections. I had a meeting, the 15-minute meeting, where I said, "Here's my cold diagnostic. Here's some of the tests that I've taken since then," and I was directly told, and like I may not need to take any of the classes and to instead do one time section every day and then one test every week,
Okay.
timed.
Okay.
Because essentially, what I was told was I am at a point where I just need to grind out accuracy
Hmm.
and keep that going. And I did not do that.
Okay.
I was attending classes. I would be like, okay, here's where I'm struggling. I'm going to attend classes, ask questions, got get in a few arguments with like saying no, I think this question is just bad, or no, I think my answer is justified with the requesting answers thing. And uh I think that was probably good for me
Hmm.
because I learn a lot more from vehemently arguing that no, I'm right, the test is bad, and then having it thoroughly pointed out, sometimes by multiple different people who have to like take turns trying to explain it to me why I'm in the wrong. And I learned a lot more that way.
Sure.
So my studying is quite hectic. And part of that is because I have a very good memory to the point where I can remember a question and correct answer from a time test that I took like a month ago, if it popped up in a time section or in a classroom. And that is not conducive to good, thorough studying.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can remember, oh, I had this exact question before, I know which one I got wrong without having to look back at it, and I know which one is right, you're not testing your own skills.
Sure.
So there's a danger of running out of questions. And I think it happened probably about 10 times over the span of like July and August that I ran into that situation, which was unfortunate because I think my cold diagnostic actually kept on coming up with questions in the demon classes that I was attending, and I was be like, oh, this is my cold diagnostic. Okay, well, this is the answer. And I just have to wait. I just have to wait for the rest of the class to kind of like go through and we work through why that's the answer.
Yeah. You ended up saying that the classes were working the best for you. Which classes did you find to be the most helpful?
Anything that was max difficulty.
Okay.
Anything that was max difficulty, and even then I was kind of there were some that I went with just to like fill time because at the moment I'm unemployed, so I have all day to study and work through stuff or attend classes.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of it was either racing against the rest of the class for like reading comprehension, because like even though like definitely follow what your teachers say, take it slow, understand things. Don't do what I do, which was try to read through it twice in the span that like the teacher reads through it once, because that's just me being stupid. um and it like take your time, understand it, thoroughly understand it, because that will help out a lot more. I genuinely think the 170 that I have that is the reason I'm here now. I genuinely think I could have gotten higher if I was more rigorous with my studying routine every day, because unfortunately it was very hectic, and I wasn't even intending, like I took the September test as like a shot saying, okay, my August test was 165. I'm not happy with that. Yes, I can get into law school, but I want scholarships.
Yeah.
And if my September test came back in the 160s, I would have delayed everything a year to like make sure I can study and get up into the 170s.
Sure.
Aiming for a 175. A 170, I am happy enough, and I've again had another 15-minute session talking about this, where I'm applying now. And I'm applying for the fall 2026 year and seeing what I can get, and if I can get anything good in terms of offers, rather than just automatically choosing to wait.
Yeah. You described at the beginning with your high diagnostic that some things came intuitively to you. Was there a specific subject or skill that you felt like wasn't as intuitive and was a little bit harder to learn?
Oh, absolutely. There was a lot of stuff like the trap answers, the logical reasoning. The ones that frustrated me the most, that I still struggle with, and is a bit of luck in terms of how things turn out on test day, is there are types of questions where how my mind works, I truly believe I got the right answer, but it's not the one they want. And because it's which of these options is the most analogous to the situation within this, like a reading comprehension.
Mm-hmm.
There's one very specific question that I do remember. I can't remember what the reading comprehension like materials were in, but I to this day think I should have gotten that question right, and I didn't. And it was on talking about the economy, and it was essentially like saying how responsive is the economy, or how fast and slow is it. And I chose in my mind, like, you have news media, like a news broadcast, or magazine, and that's the one I chose. That's the wrong answer, but in my mind, within that context, I can justify it. But when you have those analogy questions, there'll be things like, oh, like they'll use things that if you are exceptionally young, you may not recognize some of the things that they're talking about. Like, if you've never worked with a typewriter before, I've seen typewriter pop up as an analogy question. I'm like, there are people who probably will have never seen a typewriter, not even in movies,
Mm-hmm.
that will be taking the LSAT. So if that's the right answer for some reason, like it's stuff like that. The analogy questions frustrate me because it's essentially the person who designed that question chose the answer and it got through testing to go into the test. But why is it correct? Like how, like, why is it, like, if someone else with a different life experience sees that same question, they could choose a different answer that in their mind best fits it. But it's not the test. It's not what the test wants.
Sure. And to that point, when you had those instances, you said you were a big fan of the ask button and going back and forth with people on the ask button.
Yes. And that's
Right.
one that still I kind of just sort of said, you know what, fine, I'll accept that I'll accept that I'm wrong, just because I had like 3 or 4 different people going through trying to explain it to me with their own different reasoning, and I was just like not satisfied with it.
Yeah.
But the ask question, I use that whenever I cannot. And actually, I wish I should have done a bit of prep time, because there's one teacher in particular who explained something to me towards the end of June, because I had one class with him, and he answered a question about the way that you should be studying once you reach a certain threshold of scores that you're
Mm-hmm.
getting consistently. And that is to stop looking at the explanations and stop using the ask button, and try to explain to yourself why the answer was wrong and then why the other answer is right, and only look to the explanation to confirm it. And if you're confused and can't explain it to yourself with further reasoning and review, use the ask button. And I'll say that bit changed everything for me, because I
Mm-hmm.
realized that, like, at that point in time, I'd been studying, grinding away classes and studying and reading things between like the Demon lessons and Law Hub, and I had felt that I had a good enough foundation that I could justify and try to figure out why I got a certain question wrong,
Yeah.
without needing external help.
And I think that's such great advice. I love that advice, and it's some of my favorite advice to give as well, because the capacity to give that explanation to both the wrong answers, the right answers, and to work through and solve that, like that process does so much more, I think, for your understanding of the LSAT than being given the correct answer and being like, oh, okay, now I understand, right?
Right.
And it's one that is definitely arduous. When you were taking that time, I'm curious, how long does that process take you from beginning to end with a more difficult or even just your average question that you missed?
Ooh. I think it depends on the type,
Okay.
because there are some that are harder than others. Some, you get it narrowed down in your mind to a 50-50, which is bad because there's only one right answer and 4
Yep.
wrong ones. But if you choose the wrong, then you know, okay, well, the other one is likely to be right. And then it's a matter of, with the proper understanding of hindsight, to explain and pick out the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Many times, for me personally, what it was missing a word
Mm.
or misunderstanding a word, or the word was in the wrong place. And that is from reading too fast, which is a continuous problem that I have even to this day, because that's, like, if you naturally are used to reading fast and comprehending like a passage as a whole, that's not great with law. That's not great with the LSAT. You need to, word placement changes everything.
Yeah.
A a specific word is not the same as another synonym of a word.
Sure.
Synonyms are almost meaningless on the
Yeah.
LSAT. You need to be like, colloquial English may say these words are the same or have the same meaning. That's a lie.
That
Don't
is...
believe that on the LSAT, and that will trip you up and hold you back.
Yeah.
Like, you need to
Yeah.
unlearn some English to learn exact, precise definition in the eyes of arguments, reasoning, and law.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Jonathan, I don't want to take too much of your time, so I really appreciate it. Your story is definitely one of the more unique ones, given just the how high that diagnostic was. But it's always interesting to hear about how those journeys differ, and so I really appreciate it. Best of luck with your application cycle, and thanks again for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was fun.
Yeah. If you have any questions or would like to tell your LSAT success story, you can email daily@lsatdemon.com. Thanks for listening.